Hello, you two. How's it going?
Awesome. Good to see you.
You so glad you're here. Well, we are kicking off our very first episode of the Return on Investment Stories with Muse College Consulting. And I'm super honored and excited to have my very good friends Jamar and Kayla here with me. But before we get started, I want to have you two just introduce yourselves and just tell everybody a little bit about how we know each other.
Yeah, great. My name is Kayla Raelle Gilbert. I went to the theater school at DePaul, and Tracy was the director of admission when I was getting accepted, but she came on board right as we were graduating, right? So
Mhm.
um, we were luckily enough reunited because I started working at the theater school with a summer high school training program that was there at the time, but then also I started working as an admissions counselor under Tracy at DePaul, and it was the best job ever.
So they had amazing colleagues.
I am Jamar Gilbert, and I also went to DePaul University, got my BFA in acting, same class with Kayla. Met Kayla at our audition for the school. So, yeah. Art. Yeah. But yeah, got to know Tracy through Kayla being a part of the admissions program, and you're just such a wonderful boss and person that we got to know personally. So it was a blessing in disguise. You getting that job, and I just get to benefit from all the great relationships.
Oh, thanks. Likewise, right? We all got to become friends because of this. So it's so amazing. Well, thank you. Again, I'm so happy to have you all here. So the whole point of what we're trying to do in this series is learn about why students should consider pursuing the performing arts in college, what that might look like when they're done, and as you know, you two will talk about, and as we'll continue to showcase in future stories, there are a lot of different directions people can go with degrees in performing arts, right? It's not always like acting leads to XYZ, but maybe it does. But tell us a little bit more about where you pursued your undergraduate degree and a little bit about why you chose to go there.
You're right.
Was it?
Indeed.
So pursued my performing arts degree at DePaul University, BFA in acting. Um, Funnily enough, DePaul wasn't on my initial radar. When I was looking at colleges, I initially wanted to go to like Florida State or NYU. But a good friend of mine who I had been acting with for many years, she wanted to audition for DePaul and told me about it and asked that I come audition with her. And when I got to the school, it's just that thing when you get to a spot and you just know you're meant to be there. You can't even directly give like logic reasoning to it, but it's just a feeling. And I got to the Paul and I had that feeling, and through the audition process and get to know the faculty, it just all felt like home. And I knew I wanted a conservatory style training because I knew my passion for art could only be satisfied in like a deep, intense study, and I felt ready for it. And I wanted to find that discipline within myself that by going to a program like that. And Paul hit all those requirements, and yeah, I definitely gained that discipline coming out with my degree, and definitely gained plenty of knowledge on how to carry myself as an actor in the world thanks to that school. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I can relate on a lot of levels. Definitely the feeling that I got when I went to the audition. And then again, when the admitted student weekend came about, that was like a test after we were admitted. We got the opportunity to go and be on campus and spend some time with current students and see some shows, and that feeling was still there. So
Yeah.
that was super affirming. But I'm from a small town, Galena, Illinois, which is about 3 hours out of Chicago. So for me, that was a factor too. The fact that it was a city, and not just any city, it was Chicago. Yes, that's where my family is actually originally from, is Chicago. So I have a lot of roots there. But just being able to um, leave high school and enter into this vibrant theater scene that was truly like limitless at that time, especially through my perspective of being from such a small town. It was amazing, and Also, DePaul, I really loved the style of teaching that the conservatory held. It has a more of like a toolbox method. So while we were going in as BFA actors and the majority of our classes would be in acting, I really loved how we were being introduced to so many different styles. Also, being a part of the larger DePaul Liberal Arts University, we were required to take classes outside of the conservatory classroom. That really appealed to me. And I think that appealed to my parents as well, because it was a scary thing learning the term BFA from the background that, again, small town, not really familiar with conservatory programs. Definitely looked at a lot of schools, conservatory, and a lot of non-conservatory programs. But the fact that DePaul was kind of a happy medium in that sense was also a huge draw. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I appreciate you talking a little bit about the difference between a BFA and a BA program. And that's something that we try to highlight and help students with at Muse because it is very confusing, especially when you're on the front end of a process and trying to figure out where to go and where to apply and how to decide. And so many huge decisions that you don't necessarily apply to a more traditional application process. So yeah, that's amazing to just to talk about a little bit. And Jamar, you also came from a smaller town to the big city of Chicago, right?
Yeah, I came from a small town, Camden, Mississippi, 1,500 people in that town. And
Yeah.
my family to ever pursue acting or really anything within the arts. So, yeah, the whole admission process was very new and unfamiliar to my parents. And I had to lead the way on kind of dissecting and deciphering all the nuances in the process. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge. And that I think for parents, it's can feel and supporters, in the process that can feel really scary. And yeah, there's just a lot of things that they may not know if they don't come from a background of performing arts and in this world. So yeah, it's a lot of there's a lot, it's a very 360 support process in the big picture, I would say. Yes. And so talk a little bit about the degrees you both pursued and received a degree in BFA acting. Did you consider other degrees outside of the performing arts? And what was it like to sort of make that decision?
Yes, I did consider other degrees in tandem
Hmm.
acting. I knew I was going to pursue acting no matter what. And that whether that would be in the form of BA or BFA, but I always knew that I was gonna do acting. That was just part of my core that I was just very determined to do. So, the fact that I did ultimately end up at a BFA program, I did a minor, which was nice to do. I minored in sociology. That went hand in hand with our experience as humans, as artists. That was important to me. But yeah, if I hadn't pursued a BFA in acting, I was considering international studies, anything within the humanities, honestly, was always just like my MO. But alas, here I am, BFA actor. Yeah.
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 I was pretty much always locked in on just the BFA acting. I played around with the idea of getting like a minor in psychology, but then I found that all the things I wanted to learn about like the nuance of like human interaction and everything I was getting from the BFA acting program. Anyway, so I was always like plan A all the way through.
Hmm.
And though my parents and maybe like my more periphery found like my aunts and grandmas like you should get like a plan B. But I was always just locked in like plan A, BFA acting. We're gonna do this full
Yeah.
out. And that was the only option.
Yeah, I love and appreciate that so much. And I'd like to just share that in all my years working in admissions in performing arts, that's what I would just see consistently is the students that were coming into these programs and applying were just ones that like they knew they loved it, their heart was there. There's not always an answer to where you're going to end up at the end, but that's the case for all majors and programs, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
you never know. I have a degree in political science and I was going to be a lawyer, and look where I am now, not a lawyer. So, Yeah. So I love that. And it's just, I think there's a lot to be said in staying true to your passion and what you love and really seeing that all the way through. So I really appreciate you both sharing that for sure. And, I guess too, we've both mentioned now that you learned a lot more outside of just acting, right? It's hard to imagine what that means for somebody who's never studied the performing arts or has not been part of that world. So what would you say some of your biggest takeaways were, some of the biggest advantages you found in pursuing a degree in acting, and how that has maybe now helped you in your professional life? And then we'll talk a little bit about your professional life next.
Yeah. For one, something I didn't anticipate going into the school was like gaining acting skills are so transferable to so many different jobs because you learn how to speak in public, you learn how to project, you learn how to be comfortable making eye contact with other individuals. And it's like simple skills that, yeah, you can't really put those on a resume. Maybe they're not the top thing you think about putting on a resume, but they show up in interviews. They show up when you're meeting people, interacting with people. And that was just shocking to me when I came out of the program and into the real world and learning how many people my age and older just do not know how to interact with or speak up or effectively communicate an idea,
Yeah.
things that just like were second nature being in an acting program, and like how many times I was like stopped and complimented and like offered things because like, hey, you speak really well in public. Can you help us market this thing? Can you help us do this thing? Even
Mm.
in areas like one concrete example, I know we're going to get into like professional life a little later, but one of my most fun jobs I had coming out of college, I was an architectural boat tour docent. On the Chicago River, got to travel up and down the river telling people about architecture, and I knew nothing about architecture.
But he got tips out of all the architecture buffs.
Yes, and it was a wonderful job. But what I did know how to do was present information in a fun and effective way. So a little quick study on a little fact here, a little popular note here, and I can give it a grade A boat tour ride. So this is like one concrete example of just like
Mhm.
how the skills in acting, just public speaking, can take you anywhere.
And
Mm.
I would also like to add flexibility.
Mhm.
I think is a huge thing that the program that we went to, it's like that just hit me right now, honestly. This is like a new thought. I'm like, the ability to be flexible in life and to improv in life, not just in conversations or just to, not just to be funny, but in actual human situations, to be
Like,
quick on your feet,
mhm.
to be able to take something that maybe came out of left field and make the best out of it. And that is just a transferable skill in any career and any gig, but also just in life, period. Um, that feel I can really link back to our experience um,
Mm.
at our program at conservatory. Also, I mean, just the list goes on and on.
Time management.
Time management skills, discipline, self-discipline, self-love,
Mhm.
huge. That is again, all of these things that we were really pushed to look deeply inside of ourselves. And all of these things now then benefit the world in
Mhm.
a way that I think is a very necessary right now.
Mhm.
Maybe some will say more now more than ever. But also, yeah. So worldwide, career-wise, self-wise, I just think the list goes on and on.
Yeah, no, it truly does. And what I have also observed, between just being friends and connected with you two and just with all the other wonderful humans I've been able to meet, is people are very persistent. You gain some really strong entrepreneurial skills, which is amazing. And I'm really appreciating this moment as I'm venturing out as a new entrepreneur. And yeah, I just think like it's truly the list of transferable skills are endless. My other favorite thing I love to say about students who come out of the performing arts is you all have so much gumption, right? You just don't give up. You don't. You just like, okay, what's next? What do we do next? And how do we do it? And if that way isn't going to work, what way will work? And so I can't appreciate that enough, and what I've seen and observed, and I really admire in the people that I've worked with, including you two. So yeah, thanks for modeling that well. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's a big question. Let's talk a little bit about your career. So you can out yourselves and how many years you've been out of college, or you don't have to, that's totally up to you. But talk about what your journey has been like and how all of the what you've learned and these transferable skills that we've just talked about, like where's that taken you and maybe where do you looking forward to next?
Yeah. Let's see. So I don't mind outing.
It's fine.
Graduated
So
2016.
about almost 10 years.
Wow, just
Crazy.
flying. Time is flying. I think right out of school, went into just like some classic hustle jobs, working at a gym. I mentioned the boat tour. But also like a lot of opportunities right into the field of acting.
Hmm.
That was another great plug for DePaul or going to school in a city like Chicago where a theater scene was already bustling. It was easy to walk out of the school and into the industry with the connections from the school, the reputation of the school. So right out of the back, I was able to get a lot of like understudying gigs at great theaters in Chicago and work pretty consistently year after year at the different theaters around the scene. And thanks to the time management skills I developed, I was able to also hustle and do my day jobs during the day and be able to manage rehearsals at night and performances. So the inflow of money was constantly coming in so I can handle all my responsibilities as a young adult, um, as well as like gaining opportunities within the film and TV area. I've booked many TV shows from Chicago Med to Work in Progress, Shameless, and
Series regular.
series regular on shows. And now where I'm at in my career after gaining a lot of credits and working my way up, I'm now out here in LA with some of the top agencies as far as like agent and manager representation. I'm continuing to like break down the doors to gain more film and TV roles, but also stepping out, speaking of entrepreneur, writing and producing my
Mhm.
own solo show with my wife Kayla directing, um, and kind of seeing where this venture takes us, and already seeing a lot of opportunities for people asking us to turn the show into a TV series or a feature film or to tour it across the country. So taking the skills I gained at DePaul and still using them to further my career into new ventures and new opportunities. And it feels like we're just getting started. I know it's almost 10 years, but it still feels like we're just getting
It
started.
does. It so feels like we're just getting started. Since we both graduated from DePaul same year, and we stayed in Chicago for several years, until the pandemic, actually. And so because of that, I had a very similar experience out the gates, doing the Chicago theater scene, working those hustle jobs, nannying, working at the gym. We
Yeah.
worked together at a gym. I also wrote for this like mother blog. I was like a copywriter on some posts for that. And yeah, all of the little odd jobs, but the constant through all of that was acting. We were consistently acting right out of the gates, which was really great. And that would scale anywhere from small black box theater work to the big stages to commercial work
Mhm.
to, TV, independent films, just living that creative hustle and bustle. And then the pandemic hit. It was time to reassess on the big visions for our life and journey. And so we made the move out to LA, and it's been 3 years now. The first year was still during the pandemic, then it was the strikes, and now here we are. So it does truly feel like we're just getting started. But through that time, I've also been really fortunate. This past year, this is like sounding I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna say that. But I did. I booked the lead in 4 feature films within a calendar year. And it's really cool because um for 2 of them I had to travel, and one of them I was taken to Eastern Europe. I was in Bulgaria, and I'm like, that's awesome because young Kayla always dreamt of combining, I mentioned international study, or combining art with travel and experiences across the world. And I feel like it's starting to come to fruition. And all of those relationships that I've built since just being in LA are so rewarding. And now I had the opportunity to direct Jamar's piece, which I would say is the most rewarding thing. And that's another skill, like directing, and learning, and the more experience acting and collaborating with directors and, solidifying our own personal eyes and vision has been really cool.
And just like to add on, both outside of the artistic realm, we've like dabbled into like educational
Oh,
spheres.
oh my gosh. Yeah. I didn't even talk about I,
Yes, tell.
the like um that sustained me through the pandemic and brought forward some of the most rewarding years of my life. Being the director of the summer high school training program, that's my degree in acting, and just being surrounded by the arts all the time. Just I'm so passionate about it, and being able to pass that forward to other young souls. Um, it makes me tear up just thinking about it, and having the opportunity to work with such an amazing team, Tracy, in the admissions department, and paying it forward and getting to help just be a guiding light, but also to learn from the next generation. Um, Priceless, and wouldn't exchange that for the world. And I can really thank my acting degree for leading me into this administrative work where I could, flex leadership skills in a new way, not just being, the lead in a play or the lead on a film set, like actually being the lead in a community that is really meaningful, um, you know, on a different scale.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Oh
now
yeah,
he's teaching acting now.
and I'm teaching out here in LA. One of the, arguably you could say one of the top, if not number one acting studio out here in Chicago,
In LA.
in LA. Yeah, Chicago. Goodness, getting mixed up.
Since you were reminiscing about Chicago.
Reminiscing, but yeah, taking those acting skills and those leadership skills and the knowledge that I gained in my BFA program and sharing it with individuals out here chasing their dreams of being an actor, and yeah, being paid for that knowledge I have and being paid to share it, because you got to get paid.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
do.
that's the other thing. And the truth is, like, you got to get paid. And industry is up and down and unpredictable. And we are both serving at a restaurant. And guess what? I just got shouted out 3 times last night by my table, different tables coming up to my manager, just talking about my skills. And, and it's like, yeah, I could like attribute that to our education and
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
100%. And what I want to call out to both of you is, you're both saying, oh, we've been out of school almost 10 years and we feel like we're just getting started. But if you rewind back and listen to everything you just said, you're not just getting started. You really have your momentum going now. And, we all have to honor that the pandemic stopped everybody in their tracks. And yet you two, like many others, figured out how we pivot in this moment, what we need to continue to do to stay strong in our pursuit of, our acting endeavors and our profession. And, you never stopped. You just sat, you paused to figure out what was next. And so who knows what would have happened if we didn't have those years, but also who knows what would have happened if we didn't have those years, because they also added value onto just never pausing and, making sure you're continuing forward in your dreams and your passions. So, so you both need to give yourself a little more credit for, this is not, you're not just getting started, but what is happening, everyone who's going to be watching this, is that these are two huge rising stars, right? They are stars in their own right now, but the rise is coming, and so you're gonna be able to say, "I'll say I knew them when," and you watch this video when. So I'm just gonna own that in this moment because big fan. Oh, so all right, so I think really my last big question. This has been so amazing, and I'm so grateful again for you sharing everything that you have so far. But here we've got hopefully students and families and supporters, watching this, kind of wondering like, what advice would you give to people who are on the front end of this, right? Because this is scary no matter what, right? Again, I said this earlier, but I'm a brand new entrepreneur, but I've been a professional over 20 years, and it's scary for me to start something new because it's the unknown, and it's just that I guess telling yourself to keep moving forward and believe that things are going to work out the way that they're meant to work out. So, so if you were talking to aspiring performing arts students, what advice would you give them, or what would you want them to know if you could go back and tell yourself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you're looking at the front end of applying to college, or again, or just, what you would tell them now based on what you've learned?
Hmm. What would I tell them? One thing, I saw this quote the other day, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but it feels right to at least attempt to share it here. It's When you're going after something, it's not about what you gain, it's about who you become in the pursuit of it.
Mm.
And that's what I would tell people who are thinking about taking on this artist career. I know a lot of times if your families or if your concerns are like mine or my family's when I was going into it, you worry about, oh, can you make a living off of it? Can you what can you gain from this career, material wise? Like, have you set yourself up for success, or what you can gain and what salary? But that stuff will come, but the most important thing that I got from it was like who I became by pursuing this craft. Like, I got to tap into who I am and figure out who I am, and that essence, having a secure hold on that knowledge of who I am, has carried me into so many successful rooms and opportunities, and it has protected me from so many dangers and pitfalls.
Mhm.
And the most rewarding thing is it's given me a life that I enjoy living. um, yeah, yeah, I've been on everything from multi-million dollar like filming TV sets to working in a restaurant. And what I found is like the level of joy doesn't really come from what I'm doing, it's coming from what I bring to it. I've been just as happy serving around the restaurant as I have been getting catered to on a film set in my trailer.
Mhm.
And that's because like I know who I am, I know that I'm pursuing what I love. And I've been given a time, especially doing those 4 years of conservatory, to dive into and figure out those nuances of what's within me. So now I have that, and it has carried me through pandemics, through disasters, through triumphs, and it's a steady light I get to take. Um, so I will tell, yeah, those kids who want to go for it,
Yeah.
because the reward is like who you're going to become by going through this type of training. And you can pivot into so many different things, but I don't know if I would have like dropped back and got like a business degree if I would have had time to figure out like who am I really. No, and no shame to anybody who gets a business degree, but I just know the benefits of pursuing an art,
That it calls you.
that calls
Yeah.
you. The rewards are endless in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very well said. I agree. I would also say, I'm thinking back to myself in those shoes. Loosen up, lighten up. It's not life or death. I know it's a big thing. Of course, it's a huge step. And it feels like there's this big door that you got to figure out how to open, but it's gonna open. You're there. The door is made for you. It's gonna open. So I would just, yeah, like to give the advice that it's all gonna work out the way it's meant to be. You hear that? It's true.
Mhm.
Stop choking the moments. Let them come. If you have to write a college essay, I know that's like a lot of pressure. Let that breathe. Let the pressure breathe. Let it ease out, and then remember why you're doing what you're doing. Have fun with it. Have fun with it. Or do
Yeah.
because for whatever reason, whether it was that first play you did in high school, or you got to read aloud a story in an English class, or whatever it may be, that you were called to it, there was joy in it, there was fun in it. The more you can find fun with the process, the easier that door is going to open. I'm just telling you. And also, so have fun, breathe, and don't compare yourself to others. You hear it all the time. I'm saying this also for myself right now. It's just a lifelong journey, but everyone's journey is their own. And the more we can celebrate one another and lift each other up as a community, because hey, that's what we're here for anyway. We're creating art with humans for collaboration and and joy and understanding and, breaking down the borders and barriers. Let's lean into that and forget the competition. Let's replace competition with community and see where that leads you. So just know it's all going to work out.
Just
Have fun.
Yeah.
Oh, so well said. Thank you both so much. See, this is where that passion and love comes, and you can see it through how you're sharing and how you're speaking to what you do. So you two are the best. I just appreciate you, and thanks for being on the pilot, episode of the Return on Investment Stories. Yay, so grateful. And I hope that anyone who watches this just takes away that, again, this is truly a beautiful field and area to pursue. And if this is your passion, this is your dream, don't let anything hold you back. So thanks, y'all.